how can other people tap dance to work? What's the secret of that?
You find your passion. You find your passion. I was very, very lucky to find it, when I was 7 or 8 years old, and fortunately, my children have found their passion. One son loves farming like nothing else. One son loves music like everything else. And all three of them love philanthropy and what they get to do. You're lucky in life when you find it. And you can't guarantee you're going to find it in your first job out. But I always tell college students that come out, I say, take the job that you would take if you were independently wealthy. You're going to do well at it.
And the most important thing to keep in mind if you're investing in stocks is what?
Is always getting more for your money than you pay. it's like buying anything else.
What's the biggest mistake people make, though?
Well, the biggest mistake they make is listening to a lot of other people and buying something because they think it's going to go up next week or next month. And for whatever reason people give you, you should understand what you buy. Now, if you buy a farm, you look at the farm and you say, I expect to get so many bushels per acre of corn or soybeans, and you figure out how much that'll be worth, and then you figure out what the price should be. If you buy an apartment house, you look at what the rentals will be and what the taxes and expenses will be, and then you decide how much income you'll have, and you pay a fair price for that. But you don't, in stocks, people, their neighbor whispers something to them, and they run out and spend money that it took them years to earn. So you always want to look at the productive ability of the asset you're buying, whether it's a farm, apartment house, or a company, but the company is represented by a stock. And if you always get your money's worth, you'll do very well.
So if you are interested in financial matters, getting a stake early is very useful, and getting knowledge early is very useful. So, I would say you're well on the way if at 11 you're even interested in coming to a meeting like this. And if that interest is maintained, I would read financial publications. I would read whatever was of interest to me. I'd be curious about how the businesses around the town of Kearney operated. I would, to the extent that you can get people to talk to you, and people usually like to talk, learn about who's got good businesses in Kearney and why they're good businesses, and learn about the businesses that went out of business and why they went out of business, and just keep accumulating knowledge. That's one of the beauties of the business that Charlie and I are in, is that everything is cumulative. The stuff I learned when I was 20 is useful today. Not necessarily the same way and not necessarily every day, but it's useful. So you're building a database in your mind that is going to pay off over time. But you have to have a little money to work with. So there's nothing like getting a few dollars ahead, stay away from credit cards, and you can have a lot of fun if your mind goes along that track as you get older.
There are a couple questions I always get asked. People always say, well, who should I go to work for when I get out? And I've got a very simple answer. We may elaborate more on this as we go along, but the real thing to do is to get going and for some institution or individual that you admire. I mean, it's crazy to take in between jobs just because they look good on your resume or because you get a little higher starting pay. I was up at Harvard, very nice young guy. He said, I went to undergrad here, and then I worked for X and Y and Z, and now I've come here. And he said, I thought it would really round out my resume perfectly if I went to work now for a big management consulting firm. And I said, well, is that what you want to do? And he said, no, but he said, that's the perfect resume. And I said, well, when are you going to start doing what you like? And he said, well, I'll get to that someday. And I said, well, I said, your plan sounds to me a lot like saving up sex for your old age. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I told that same group, I said, go to work for whomever you admire the most. And I said, you can't get a bad result. You'll jump out of bed in the morning and you'll be having fun.
I'm going to be 87 in a few weeks. For decades, I've been buying small businesses after they become big. So I pay hundreds of millions of dollars. It occurred to me, I've got to get these people earlier, This country is incredible. I mean, if you think about it, if you put three of me end to end, not that I'm suggesting that, but if you put three of me end to end at 87, it's 20 years before Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. 3 lifetimes like mine, and you've transformed a prairie land, basically. Nothing was here, into $92 trillion. That's the most recent estimate of American wealth. From nothing. And the good news is the game has just started. When you look at the people behind me, they have been unlocking their potential, in some cases for many years, in some cases very recently, but they're not satisfied with where they've gotten. They want to keep moving forward, and this country gives them the opportunity to do so. Coming through the line, I'd never met him before. A young man shook my hand, and he said he lived 4 blocks away from me in Omaha. Maybe he could raise his hand. I live in a upper middle class neighborhood. It's a little higher middle class because I live in it in terms of the average income. But, the kids all go to public school in the neighborhood. They don't automatically get cars when they're 16 or anything of the sort. Every person in that neighborhood is living better than John D. Rockefeller Sr. lived when I was born in 1930. Think of that, in medicine, in education, entertainment, in travel, you name it. They are in a better position in life, essentially, than he was in the year I was born. That's in one person's lifetime. And the game is just starting. So anytime you hear anybody say, that your children aren't going to live better than you do, or your children's children and so on, it's ridiculous. And the reason is exemplified by these people behind me. We have a wonderful system. This country, we haven't lost the magic touch. The formula's still there. And I just applaud these people that are taking advantage of that. But that's America, folks. I mean, people want to better themselves. We all want to help each other. In doing that, Americans can do anything if they set their mind to it. And you're looking at Exhibit 1, and I rest my case. Thank you. Consistently buy an S&P 500 low-cost index fund. Keep buying it through thick and thin, and especially through thin, because the temptation gets, when you see bad headlines in newspapers, maybe to say, well, maybe I should skip a year or something. Just keep buying it. American business is going to do fine over time. So you know the investment universe is going to do very well. The Dow Jones Industrial Average went from 66 to 11,497 in 1 century, and then since that century has ended, it's more or less doubled again. American business is going to do well. The trick is not to pick the right company; it's to be, because most people aren't equipped to do that, and plenty of times I make mistakes on that. The trick is to essentially buy all the big companies through the S&P 500, and to do it consistently, and to do it in a very, very low-cost way, because costs really matter in investments. If returns are going to be 7 or 8%, and you are paying 1% for fees, that makes an enormous difference in how much money you have on retirement.
At the annual meeting for Berkshire Hathaway this year, you introduced a special guest to the audience of 40,000 shareholders who were watching. It was Jack Bogle. Why did you want to recognize Jack Bogle? I think Jack Bogle has done more for American investors than any other person connected with Wall Street or the investment process, because he, with a number of other people, he came up with the idea of the index fund. He wasn't the sole thinker behind it, but he was the guy that implemented it and crusaded for it. But now there's trillions of dollars in low-cost index funds. Those people are going to have better lives, they're going to have better retirements, their kids are going to inherit more money because of Jack Bogle and his efforts.